world where all your individuals, organizations that potentially may become donors are going to be there. And so, having your fundraising system right inside your association management system really gives you that benefit of having, your members can be donors, your donors can be members. Any record here in CRM is available to the other modules. So all of these really kind of work together in concert and help you kind of strengthen those donor relationships and find new prospects and so forth. So let's start out, and this would be kind of looking at CMS in terms of what the eWeb, what the donors would see on the web. And here I have a very generic kind of demo site, ASTC. That's my fictional association here, but there are a few donate online pages that we kind of ship with the eWeb, but for various purposes. So as you guys, it sounds like you've used maybe at least one of these, or maybe a custom version of that. What I would typically see on a customer side is that there'd be a big, maybe a red button up here that says donate now.
And welcome to the meeting. Please enter your Please hold while I confirm your passcode. Thank you for joining Global Meet. When you hear the tone, you will be the 5th person to join the meeting.
Yes, page. And so the idea here is that there's radio buttons. They can choose an amount. Don't even need to log in really here. We're just trying to get out of the way from them donating. So this first name and last name are really the only two things required there, although you could require more. And then really it's just, payment method. And so that would be a quick way that they could donate online. Now this same form, of course, if that person is logged in, will populate some of that. So it is a smart form here. Let me go ahead and log in as one of my records. And so here I have Wayne Abernathy, and Wayne, if he would navigate to that same page or click on the Donate Now button, because he's already logged in, then it would pre-populate that information. So it's even faster then. Then the nice thing there, he can donate his $50. He can just put the payment method in, and within really about 2 or 3 clicks, he's made his donation. And then, of course, the other benefit is then that's tied to his record, and we can see an ongoing history of Wayne's record. So that's what we call the kind of the quick Donate Now page. The other way to look at this, knowing that really here, if you notice, I really didn't select any kind of a fund or anything like that. All of that was pre-populated. It went into kind of a general fund. And so knowing that there are different funds and levels of ways to give within an organization. The other way to kind of look at this is if I click just this link called Donations, that's going to take me to a more general page. It kind of looks like a store. I mean, really, it's the online store with donations. So here is where you can see that list of all the funds that I have here in my site and images. I don't have too many images there, but in this case, I would kind of progress through this as a shopping cart experience, and maybe even I give to several funds. I add some to this fund and some to that one, and it's really just circling back around, adding those gifts to the cart. But here you can see it's a little bit different, and it just shows me some basics here about recognition. If I want to be put this in honor of or in memory of someone, and then progress through. Okay, so now that's in the cards, and again, I can circle back and get to another fund as well. So from the donor's perspective, those are kind of the two-way baseline that we give people, and of course, I've seen very different kind of iterations on this with custom pages that do certain things, but that's the starting point that we give you from the eWeb. Those two approaches, the quick form and then the kind of the store version of it where they can pick the fund. So let's take a look at this now from the inside. I'm going to remove that from Wayne's cards just so it doesn't show up here again. But from the staff view now, I can look up Wayne's record because that already exists in the system, and I'll just use my super search up here. Now, what I'll do first is kind of go to his individual record. And you may know that there are different views that we can see here. Of course, from the CRM, the baseline view is really not geared towards donations. It's kind of like a business card here. We see his contact information. Of course, there's the membership tab where we can see his membership information and all that. But I have to dig down into one of the the tabs here to kind of see donations and see other things. We have added alternate profiles. So for those of you who are viewing this and who are in the fundraising space, and that's your primary job, then what you could do is switch your view of the CRM records to a fundraising constituent detail. And really what this does is it just looks at, you're still looking at all the same records you saw before, but now it brings up to the top the details that about Wayne as a donor. You can see here that down at the bottom, there's still the membership tab and there's still the events tab. So all of that information is still there, but what's bubbled up to the top here is now I can see here's the first gift date, first gift amount, highest gift date, highest gift amount, latest gift date, latest gift amount. So here are just some good summary information here that's being pulled out. I get year-to-date amounts, year-to-date counts, and along with some quick links that allow us to process it. If instead of doing this online, if he's on the phone or maybe he sent in a donation, it allows me to add that right from here, or maybe add some notes around that. So that's the constituent view. Now, as I mentioned, all the tabs are the same down here. So if really you don't even want to kind of be look at that kind of information, if you want to streamline it solely to fundraising type information, that's where we would go to the fundraising module. And from that vantage point, we're looking again at all the same organizations, individuals who have donated. But from a constituent record, a constituent is just like a companion record to the individual or to the organization record, again, focusing on that fundraising information. So here you can see the main page is very similar. It has all that summary information, but then down below, we're getting a little more specific here with fundraising. So the donations tab comes up to the top where I can see all his gifts. I can drill into them and get down to the payment records, or if there's an invoice record associated with that. I can see other pledges and so forth. So all of that comes right here, along with tailoring down all the tabs to where I'm only looking at those that are kind of related to that. And then one other thing from this vantage point, I'm also going to get to edit some of these fields that weren't necessarily available from the CRM page. If I click edit here from Wayne's constituent record, it's a little bit of a different form. So things like if I'm tracking, is this person a VIP? I'm tracking donor categories. who is their staff contact, the recognition level. So the recognition levels can be designated as a certain, if it's given a certain amount to a certain fund, then that would qualify them to a certain level. So you can build those into your funds. And then, of course, salutations, which are a big deal in terms of mailings and so forth. You can have up to 4 of those, and kind of there's some logic in terms of how it pulls that out. So all of that is really there from that constituent record. Again, it looks a little different, just presents the information differently, but it's the same core record that we saw before. Now, what these summary fields allow you to do, the nice thing about them, of course, we saw the details here. We can see the details of each gift. The summary fields are, or I should say, can be queried on. So that makes it really nice when you're searching for records and want to find, say, everyone who donated last year but hasn't donated this year, those types of things. If you use the query tool in netFORUM, then you already know how to do this, because it's really that same tool that now you're just querying the different types of information. So as an example here, from the fundraising module, if I go under constituents, open that up, you'll see the link to query fundraising constituents. So now we're just using that same query tool, but in this part of the database, so we're going to see that those fields available. And I could build a new query, but let me just bring up one for the sake of time that's kind of already built out. Here's a live bunch query, so last year, but unfortunately not this year, and so it's saying who's donated before, but not this year. The 2 pieces of this query are fairly simple. We're just looking at that constituent last year count, so how many gifts came in last year. I'm saying greater than or equal to 1. And then the last year, year-to-date count is less than 1. So very simple to do, but this gives you those people. And if we run that query, now I've got 14 records, but you can see that year-to-date amount is 0 there, and their lifetime amount is visible there. And from here, this might be the start of my marketing campaign, not my solicitation. So I could just do a quick email to that list right from here, or I could do a more formal marketing campaign from the marketing module. There are a few other types of queries that maybe I'll just point out just to help you guys use this well, because the queries they give you so much power to be able to kind of reach in there and pull out different lists of information. So here's just a couple things I'll point out more with the query tool. There's another one here. Let me just do this one. Here's the constituents who gave over an amount. So if you're just looking for gift amounts that are over a certain dollar amount, notice the difference here in the criteria on the field choice. And this is sometimes where I think the query tool can get more complex in terms of picking the right fields to query on, right? Here you can see the year-to-date amounts and the last year amount. So all of those are on the constituent table. But we'd have to dig a little bit further to find for a specific gift. So the idea was before we could say, well, if Wayne had given 10 gifts of $50, that would get him to a certain amount. But maybe I'm looking for a particular gift and saying who has given over a certain amount at one time. And so in that case, notice here what I'm looking at. I'm just looking at the invoice detail amount. So when that came into a certain gift, there's a gift invoice table, and so that's linked to this. I could search for it in here, but now I'm saying that amount is greater than, and then I can put it in whatever I want when I run that. So finding your right fields, whether they're summary or a specific gift, is an important thing to do. So let's just say, over $100. And here I'm not even filtering by fund, so in this case it's going to give me quite a few records, but that would give me my list there. One one final thing that I'll show you with the query tool is just that some folks like to use this for finding donors that are nearby, so based on a location. Now, you may already be familiar with running this same thing. I can put a filter on it and say also that are in the state of Virginia or something like that. But there was, here I did some fancy things inside SQL here. So this does take a little bit of extra work to find a radius. So the idea here is that donors within a 25-mile radius of Orlando. So maybe you've got a gala or an event or something that you want to invite people to. And so you could say here, year-to-date amount is greater than some amount, and then also we're looking in this radius form. So in that case, I run that. And I'll just leave it at 50, that's fine. And so now I've got my record there. So just kind of 3 examples, but using specifically the fields that are pertinent to constituents and to fundraising to find those people back, to find your potential donors and your donors that have donated in the past and maybe who will donate in the future. You guys have been quiet. Any questions so far on this? The next thing I was going to do is go to reports and show you a little bit about some baseline reports before we kind of process a pledge, and maybe I'll take you through those steps. But any questions so far?
Matthew, this is Amy. I'm curious through today, and this might be over and above what you're intending to cover, but I noticed on the left-hand side it listed Wealth Engine. I wondered if at some point you can touch on how Wealth Engine collaborates in with these donors.
Yeah, sure. And so I can talk about that now. So there's 2 different ways that we do that. It has to be, it is a standard integration in that we've built some tables within that forum to store Wealth Engine data. And so there are 2 ways that it can integrate. If you have to have a Wealth Engine, do you guys use Wealth Engine for any of your clients right now?
We don't currently.
No, okay.
But I have used it in previous roles.
Okay. Well, you do have to have a agreement with Wealth Engine, but then it's just really a matter of turning on the connection between the 2. So one way to do it is that you can, from donor records, and I'm not sure if I have the example here. Let me go back to Wayne's record. I think there's a little flag that comes up that allows, when I have it turned on, and I don't apparently here.
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
But so what I could do if this was turned on this site, I could click a button here that said Wealth Engine or whatever, and it would actually run Wayne's name and information, his basic contact information. It would send it over to Wealth Engine and return back some of the basic things like capacity to give and propensity to give and all those kind of things that they track, and all the details for that. And so you can kind of view that just if he's a VIP donor, and you can kind of see all that data. But really what that does is kind of just does a quick check, and some of the power, like I mentioned, some of the power of that form is being able to query that information. So mixing that with what they've done here in the system with your organization is really where the power comes in. So the other way that we can integrate with Wealth Engine, and I say integration, really the way to do that is to export a list of constituents, and you basically send it to Wealth Engine. They run it through their system, fill in all these blanks about all the fields that, capacity to give and so forth. And then, like I said, there are tables now in that form that then you can import that back into that form. So we've designed a little import tool specifically for that. And once it's in there, now you've got that information query on and kind of build into the database here. So it can be very useful. talked about some queries there, and let me also show you some of the baseline reports. We have quite a few, but I'll just point out one or two that I think might be useful. Of course, from the Report Central, here's the central library of all the reports under the fundraising module. There are a number of different categories. So here we can roll up gifts by appeal, by campaign. There's even assignments. So if you're using that feature within netFORUM to kind of link to your donors and you're following up with them and you have these assignments that are connected to those records, here we've kind of put these same, really these are just assignment type reports, CRM reports that we've made available within this section because customers tend to use those together. But one of the ones that I like to point out here under constituent reports, so here, and by the way, here you can see like a live bot and a side bot report. So they've got those two as just standard kind of canned reports that you can run. So you don't have to create the query for them. There's one constituent giving report by state, for instance. So this would be, I'll just click on the sample. Now instead of rolling this up to, by constituent, now I can see how many, the total to date, total gift amount, average, all that stuff just total by state. It's just another way to look at it, kind of view where your donors are coming from. That's kind of one way to summarize that. And then the other one that I'd like to point out here under gift, actually let's get the opportunities. Under gift reports, there's one that I think is useful called the Giving Trends Analysis. And I'm going to try to run this one here live instead of clicking on the sample. So here with the trend analysis, I can now take a particular fund, I'm going to use this thing I call the general fund, and I want to group this by the different campaigns within that fund. And I want to then compare, this is really cool, you can compare different years. So I'm going to say by year, and you could do it by month or quarter, but I'm going to compare the last 2 years. All right, so and it's just really a grid. I mean, it kind of builds this table, but now I can see side by side, here's 2014 versus 2015, the different campaigns. This is the sum of all the gifts. The maximum gift, the highest gift made, and then the total count, not the dollar amounts, but the number of gifts that came in. So that can be useful in just kind of analyzing, comparing month over month or year versus 1 year versus the next year. That's a nice trend report there. Keep in mind too, just like I said before with the solicitation part of it, and this we talked a little bit about marketing before, so I'm not going to go into this in depth, but just know that because we're using queries, the query is kind of the foundation of the marketing module, and so here I can build a campaign, a solicitation campaign that is based on email or maybe even some mailing that's done here. And really let's see if I have one here. Oh, there's quite a few, but okay, this one's for membership renewals, but so I don't have a good fundraising option here. But this could be, those, maybe you're sending out a particular message to those who have given between this and this amount, and then you're sending another message to those between this and this amount. So you're kind of segmenting your groups with those queries, and then scheduling an email or even a mailing to be sent out to those. So the marketing module really works hand in hand with that because the query tool is used to segment your data. And unless you have a specific question about that, we kind of talked a little bit about marketing before, so I'll kind of leave that where it is unless you have a specific question. Let's go through a a donation then here, and instead of doing it online, let's say we'll process it internally. So, so this may be when he calls in, or maybe he mailed his check in, and now we've looked up his record and want to process that donation. So I'm going to do this from his constituent profile, and here I have a couple options on how I do this. So this little drop down here is basically here in my just giving a basic gift. Is it kind of a one-time gift? Is it a split? And the idea with a split gift is that it's split between several funds. So so it could, it's a $100 check, 50 goes to this fund, 50 goes to that fund. This is where we can do a pledge, or maybe add a payment against a outstanding pledge. So there's some other things here too. But let's go ahead and maybe we'll do a pledge, and we'll kind of see how that is done. So within this, it's going to be similar to the gift page in that we need to specify a particular fund code that it will go to. That fund could be connected to campaigns or appeals that we can then select as well. If they're an honoree there, we're giving recognition to someone. Here we're tracking the solicitor as well. So if you had somebody who was pursuing that sale, and you needed to give them credit for that, then you could add the solicitor here. This is really just looking up another individual in the database. So if it was the staff there, then you would have to have, of course, records within the system so that you could be added as a solicitor. Or if it's an outside solicitor, that's fine too. They could be connected to this pledge. Okay, so we have the pledge date and the amount. Bump it up a little bit just for fun. 500. And notice here there is a template, a default kind of template that would be a confirmation that would go out to Wayne. So you could select which template you're going to use for this purpose. Add any notes necessary. If you didn't have I don't have a default batch set up for today, so it didn't fill that in automatically. But I'm going to select my batch. And then the next thing it wants to know is that we have this concept of pledge types. So within the fundraising world, there's different types of pledges in terms of how likely you are to actually get that money, that $500 that comes in. And so the signed pledge, if it's considered signed, then it creates an invoice for that full pledge amount, and basically results in kind of an installment plan with actual invoices there. Within a verbal pledge, we're kind of tracking that, but it's on what we call a pro forma basis, so it's not really hitting AR. It's just kind of we want to record that came in, but we're not really counting on it quite yet from an accounting standpoint. In fact, you can see the difference there when I click on it. If I click sign, you can see it's asking for the payment amount and the payment method and so forth, as opposed to verbal. Should refresh that. Yeah. Well, okay. But here we're just tracking the schedule, and really they're not making a payment at this point. Okay. Let's call this a signed pledge, and we'll say that we've got a let's do 10 monthly payments. So in this case, it's giving us the full flexibility to decide how the pledge is done. We're going to do 10 monthly payments of $50. And so in this case here we have a $50 we're assuming that because I'm choosing that to have a check here, that we're assuming that there is a $50 check in front of me. If not, it would just have to be done as an open schedule. But I'll put a check number, what's the name? John Adair, if you remember, that individual was the solicitor, so he's going to kind of get credit for that and being attached to that that pledge. So there's a soft credit there. All right, so I save that, and netFORUM creates all the right things there. We can see it under his record, under donations. There is the constituent pledges. So here he had already given one a while back, but now this one, you can drill into it and see that the first payment has been made. Okay, so that's how to do that's how to set up a pledge. Any questions on that? Do you want to go deeper? We could look at kind of the schedule from the accounting module if necessary, but if we're not going to, if that's not important, I won't dig into that. Help guide me here. Is there any other specific things that you would like to see? I could go through just adding just a standard donation here, or adding a gift right from the record. Any specific questions?
I don't have any.
Okay.
It seems pretty intuitive, I think.
Good. Okay. Yeah. And if you're familiar with netFORUM, then you'll be very familiar with navigating around and kind of, finding the right things there. So, yeah. I will add this to it. If you all are pursuing kind of like major gifts and using the sales feature too, this is where kind of this can tie in, and the fundraising module can kind of tie into sales, because knowing that these may be opportunities as well that you have to pursue a major gift. So here, if from Wayne's record, maybe I want to add what we call an opportunity. So the opportunity here, it's not a gift, it's not a pledge, it's just it represents the potential of one. And so I'll say that I'm the sales rep, and the account is Wayne. And this could also be an organization, by the way. We're not limited to individuals, but if Wayne was a wealthy guy here, we might want to do this. So we'll just call it major gift. And let's say that based on my wealth engine screening, I think he can give us $10,000. Yeah, the sales quantity is really more for other types of product purchases, but here it would typically be one gift of $10,000. Under product type, knowing that again this module connects to really anything you're selling throughout the system, here we want to specify what type of product we're dealing with here. And so we're going to say it is fundraising. You can even get more specific and say which fund it's to, but you don't have to. That's not a required field. And then you can create different stages to that process. So maybe we've just qualified him as a potential donor, and so we're in that stage. Maybe the next stage is to present a proposal to him, and we hope to get this in. It's an estimated close date of, well, who knows, but let's say the end of November. And so all of this can feed into the reporting within the sales module, so that you can see potential, the pipeline reports and expected revenue that might come in based on these opportunities.
Hey, Matthew, could I ask a question? This is Brian, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
I know with Avila Fundraising Online, you can generate a script to put on a website for fundraising. Can you do anything like that inside of the module here?
A script. Give me an example of what that script is doing.
It's capturing donor information, credit card information, things like that. So it basically creates an online form that, if you're a nonprofit and a potential donor goes to the site, they can hit donate now and it finds that form and payment process.
And maybe to augment, what it is JavaScript. So you basically, the tool, the Avila tool, actually you just create it like you're in Word, and then once you're done, you push a button, it generates the JavaScript, and you can paste that JavaScript anywhere, and then it's an active form that pulls right into your database, the data.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular the way they use that tool was. But I don't know. With us, we kind of give you the starting point, right? So as I showed, we have we have the online forms for donating, and then if there's something in here that you want to modify, that would be done through what we call the netFORUM toolkit, the developer's toolkit. So here, maybe you want to take out a few of these fields, maybe you want to move them around, you put some logic in there, whatever it is. That can be done through the toolkit. In that case, it's really a combination of another module. So there's the toolkit module where I could look up the form that's being used right here. This is actually a form within the system that's saying, hey, show this form on this page. And the page, of course, is being stored in the CMS module that's saying this is what's available to view online. So I guess I'm kind of getting around to your question, but yes, you can add JavaScript. There are what we call form extensions that you can create to any form that might trigger some action. But if it's just a matter of capturing database information, then you really don't need the JavaScript. You could just design a form. Lay it out, use our form designer to do that. So let me see if I can show you that real quick. If we have, let's see, form key. Well, let's see if I can look it up real quick. So if I go to the toolkit, I'm going to say find form. And we'll say, there's a lot of them out there. I'm going to say, yes. Let's see if that does it. That's a subform. Okay, that was the wrong one. But maybe I can give you the example. Have you ever used the netFORUM toolkit before?
I've not, no.
We have,
okay.
Yes. Our developers use it, and we've created our own form for donations. So.
Okay, yeah, I thought you said that at the beginning. Okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so this is one way you can do it, and this is kind of a drag and drop environment here, to where you're adding. You can add fields. Just kind of drag it out there. You can build these forms, and then through the CMS module, then you are deciding which forms to display on which pages, so that donors can kind of enter in that information. It goes right into the database. In terms of JavaScript and things, there are a couple ways to trigger that. But typically, the way I've done it, I really don't dabble too much in JavaScript or programming in general. But there are these things called form extensions, and so within a form, we could add an extension that would fire off some code based in some trigger. Maybe it's when the form loads. Maybe it's after save. It runs that particular method. Maybe there's a click, an HTML, when they click on a certain button, it triggers your code to go, but that can be done right from our form extension. So I'm not getting too far into the weeds there, but the quick answer is yes, you can customize those. And then, you know, if I know you guys mentioned that you've kind of set up the basics, just kind of as a hierarchy of the back end of the kind of the setup. You've got at the very top level, you've got your fund, and then within a fund, you can have multiple campaigns and appeals. So that's kind of how it's structured, and then the products themselves, we call them products because it's really kind of a system that sells. The fundraisers really don't like that. It's really the way to kind of get that in the door in terms of how they're bringing that in. But let me go into one of these real quick here. Let's see. This general fund. So here's a fund. You can add a goal. It gives you how much is currently raised. If there's a premium, so the premium is that if they donate a certain amount, then they might get a tote bag or I don't know, some tickets to something, whatever it is. And then the fund fee. This is where you could put the suggested amounts and have those come up as the radio buttons there on the form. So related to different campaigns. This is kind of the boring side of it in terms of like just the setup, but each one of these can hold values that relate to that fund. All right, that's kind of the quick version of it. So any other specific questions? As you can see, there's a lot in here in terms of digging into each one of these pieces, but much of it is, you know, it's netFORUM, and if you know netFORUM, you'll find it very easy. You'll see things that you might be used to from other modules, like assignments, requests, you know, in the gifts, there'll be invoices. So if you use those in other modules, then it'll be very easy to kind of get around with that. All right, guys, that was kind of my all I had planned for the kind of the walkthrough. If you guys don't have anything more, I think that's all I have. Any final call for questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Matt.
right, guys. Well, thanks for your time.